guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we have a book okay, let's do that again. Today we have a book review for you guys. We're going to be reviewing The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, and I am so glad that I read that book. There you go. Rest of the review, you don't need it. Yeah, so I am so glad I read that book. The first time I've seen any of Holly Black's stuff is when I went to the Queen of Air and Darkness by Cassandra Clare's signing. That was the first time I kind of even really heard about Holly Black. I'd seen her novels around Bookstagram and that sort of thing, but I've never really kind of known about them and what they're about. And when she was speaking there, was like, I need to read this. I don't know what it is, but I absolutely love fairies. Not like fairies like Tinkerbell fairies, but fairies like, I don't know how you would describe them, but like kind of warrior, cool courts and queens and kings and magic fairies, if that makes sense. But like badass fairies, I like those. And this book is just full of them. I'm honestly obsessed. If you want to know why I'm obsessed, then just keep on watching. So first off, the beginning just had me shook, okay? Like, it just starts, boom, you're in. There's no kind of build up, there's no like description of fairy, or there's no kind of background to it whatsoever. But that's not an issue, because throughout like the novel, Holly Black does really good she's just really good at explaining fairy throughout it, and she gives you all the history and kind of how the courts work, how society works, and how kind of all the gentry and all the kind of little animals work out. So that's really good. But because it got you right from the beginning, I was hooked, literally. I was like, well, this is happening right now. What is happening halfway through the novel? Yeah, so it kind of starts off where these three girls, one fairy and two human, are kind of taken from what they know in the mortal world and plunged right into fairy. And that's kind of, I think, the prologue, I want to say. Yes, it's oh, I didn't realise that they had a map. Yeah, so that's in the prologue, and then it kind of shifts to like 10 or 16 years later, when the girls have been in fairy for kind of almost their whole childhood now. And because they've been there for their whole childhood, they've started to kind of be adapted to it. They're no longer mortals living in fairy, they are a part of fairy themselves. And it kind of goes through the really quite mundane struggles of someone moving in to an unknown territory, so the prejudice they face by the fairies. Even though these girls are part of a really high household and protected by the general themselves, it does kind of go through all of that, and like the horrors that they face and all the tricks and all the precautions that they have to take to avoid being glamoured and controlled by all the fairies. Now, because the beginning was like straight to the point, I feel like the middle just had a bit of a lull to it, up until it got to kind of part 2, which I didn't even realise was going to be a part 2, but up until it got to that, there was a bit of a, I don't really know what's going on here. Like, Jude was constantly planning and she had something in her head and the stuff was going on, but I didn't quite see how it fit together. It just kind of felt as though Holly Black was just kind of filling in the gaps before she got to the really big bit. And then it kind of made sense as you got through, but I just felt like it was more of like a filler, kind of the middle portion of the novel towards, I think, the middle bit before it got to the end, before part 2, if that even makes sense. It just kind of felt like it was a bit of a filler. It was interesting nonetheless, but I just didn't really know what was going on. I was just a bit confused. Right, so out of the three sisters, you have Vivian, Jude and Taryn. Vivian's the oldest and Jude and Taryn are kind of like twins, I think. Jude is like the main protagonist throughout it. She's the main female lead, and it really centres around her story, and kind of how she tries to fit into fairy, just because Taryn has kind of more really found her place, and Taryn is also, she's just so pathetic. At this moment in time, just only reading that book and not read anything else about these characters whatsoever, she's just so annoying. Like, you'll understand once you've read it. I just think she's just a bit pathetic, really. as a character, compared to her sisters, she is just really pathetic. Now, Vivian is the fairy of the sisters. I think she's half fairy, and she's the one that resists fairy the most out of all three of them, and I think it's because she's the older one. She's had more experience in the mortal world than the other two, and she's kind of hardly in it, but I feel like, I don't know, I really wanted more Vivian in it, to be honest, because I feel like she would have been just like such a badass character. She would have just been amazing. But then there's Jude, who I feel just kind of gets in over her head, trying to please people and trying to make a name for herself, which is completely understandable considering the world that she's in. But some of it I was a bit like, seriously, like, come on, calm down now. But then warranted, I think she's only like 16 or maybe like 11 in this book, so you know. Yeah, so it centres around Jude, and I think she's so complex and so not superficial whatsoever. So you think she's just angry and just blah 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 for no reason, and then as the story starts to unfold, you can kind of see her breaking a little bit. You can see the cracks and how hard it is for her to try and keep herself together, because if she doesn't, then she'll completely just break apart. And yeah, basically. Also, from the beginning, I knew there was something about Carden that wasn't quite what everybody was trying to make out to be. You know, when you have the bad guy who's not really a bad guy, but everyone thinks he's a bad guy, that's Carden. He's just like Jude, he's got a little bit, he's like an onion.
Ogres are like onions.
They stink?
Yes. No.
Oh, they make you cry?
No.
Oh, you leave them out in the sun, they get all brown, start sprouting little white hairs.
No. Layers. Onions have layers. Ogres have layers. Onions have layers. You get it. We both have layers.
They're both like onions, like a little bit more of complexity about them. Like, they just have a lot of layers to go through, and in the end, I really liked him. I think from the beginning I just really liked him. I don't know what it was, I just think he's just great. Locke is the one you need to watch out for, because there's something about him, he just completely blindsides you and just like comes out of nowhere. He's the one you need to keep an eye on. But Carden, he's got a special place for. The plot twist that comes about once Jude and Carden start spending some more time together is one that I predicted from like the very beginning, and when you read it, you'll know what I mean. It'll just kind of click. You'll kind of know what's going on between them, and even though they don't know what's going on, you will know. There's something about Fairy that is just incredible. This fairy is different to Cassandra Clare's fairy, but they're all kind of in the same world. So this one is Elfheim, I think, whereas Cassandra Clare's fairy is kind of the Unseelie and the Seelie courts instead. So they kind of are mentioned and kind of brought in, but I think they're more kind of like wild fae than these ones. This one is all about more kind of kings, queens, royalty, gentry, all of that sort of stuff, and the regality, is that a word? The regalness of the fairies and fae is just amazing. And like, I want to go. I just want to go. I want Fairy to be real so I can go have a look and come back home, because it also scares the living daylights out of me. The descriptions that Holly Black uses are just so intense, and I just really love them. I really want to go, and I think fairies are now my favourite mythical creature. Forget vampires and werewolves, it's all about the fae. The ending was somewhat predictable, I want to say, because Jude has this plan that she goes and employs certain people to come and help her with in order to like crown the new king, and she has one plan that the readers are privy to and we know, and that is the one that, from what we are aware, she tells everyone. But there was just an inkling that I had that it wasn't quite the plan she was going to go with, and from then on I kind of knew what she was going to do and the sort of risk she was going to take, and it's something that ended up being true. So to some extent the ending is a little bit predictable, but nonetheless I was thrilled the whole time. It wasn't predictable in the sense that you would kind of sigh in dissatisfaction. It was predictable where you were kind of satisfied and you were like, I knew that was going to happen. I think the novel was good. It was full of action, it was full of kind of strategy, and it did make you really think kind of what plays were going to be used, and it kind of kept my brain, even though I was in neutral and just enjoying the reading, it was one that I kind of was puzzling together at the same time, which I really enjoyed. And that part 2 really helps notify the switch in the narrative. So as soon as that hits, you can just tell there's a difference in tone. Characters, I love them all. Maddox, I don't know what it is about him, but I think he's absolutely great. Again, someone that's really complex, not straight to the point. And Oriana, is it Oriana, is that how you say it? But again, with all of these characters in Fairy, there's a lot more to them than meets the eye, and I just love them all. I think they're all so beautifully written. Obviously Taryn, we can just ignore her. Easy the fact that easy to read, easy to follow. There were the odd bits where I got confused, but that was just really because of trying to figure out which fairy was which house they belonged to, that sort of thing. So it was just a bit of fairy history that kind of confused me rather than the actual style of the writing. That was my review of Holly Black's The Cruel Prince. I really enjoyed it, and if you want to purchase, the link is down below. I did get this one at YALC actually, just because I'd heard so much about it, and I'm so glad that I did because it changed my life. And I will soon be on to the next few ones after I've read my January arcs, just so I can get those reviews out for you ASAP. But yeah, that's it for today's review. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, all of that good stuff down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!